A typical dinner for a family of 4 at many restaurant chains can now easily top $100 after tax and tip. That's a number that would have sounded unbelievable just a few years ago, but it's happening. And what's more interesting than the price itself is what's happening in response to it. People aren't protesting. They're not organizing boycotts. They're just quietly making different decisions. One fewer visit this month, one more dinner cooked at home, one less stop on the road. Individually, those choices seem small. But when millions of people make the same decision at the same time, entire restaurant chains feel the consequences. These are not unknown brands struggling in the dark. These are names that millions of people grew up with. Places where birthdays were celebrated, where families sat down together after long weeks, and where ordinary evenings became memories. What they're facing now isn't just a business problem, it's a value problem. And the 7 names on this list tell that story better than any chart ever could. Starting with number 7. Applebee's built its reputation as the ultimate neighborhood bar and grill. For decades, it was the default answer when nobody could agree on where to eat. Not too expensive, not too fancy, not too casual, just comfortable, sitting perfectly in the middle of American dining, offering a reliable table where families and friends could gather without thinking too hard about the bill. That position worked for a very long time. But in 2026, something has shifted. The parking lots tell the story before you even walk inside. The glowing signs are still lit, but the rooms that used to buzz with Friday night energy now feel quieter than they should. A burger, fries, and a drink can now cost significantly more than customers remember. Add appetizers, a couple of beverages for the family, maybe a dessert, and the final bill can become genuinely surprising. That's when the comparisons begin. Some families compare the receipt to a Costco run. Others think about what that same money buys at the grocery store. And more people are realizing they can cook an entire meal at home for less than a single restaurant visit. The problem isn't just the prices, it's perception. When people pay more, they expect more, better service, better food, a better experience. But many customers say Applebee's no longer feels special enough to justify the cost. The loaded fries arrive smaller. The service, once warm and attentive, has grown slower and less consistent. And a brand that once felt like a neighborhood institution started chasing trends instead of owning its identity. There was no single bad visit that drove people away. It was a slow realization, repeated visit after visit, that the place they counted on no longer delivered the same value. Millions still have fond memories. Late-night appetizers, casual date nights, kids drawing on paper table covers. Those moments were real. But when the feeling behind the slogan fades, loyalty fades with it. Number 6 surprises a lot of people. Wendy's is preparing to close roughly 300 to 350 locations. It's one of the most significant fast food announcements of 2026. But for regular customers, the real story didn't start with store closures. It started with the receipts. Wendy's was never built to be a premium brand. It was built for people who wanted a hot, quick, affordable meal after a long day. For decades, that promise held. You pulled into the drive-thru, you knew what you were getting, and you knew it was worth it. That certainty is eroding. A burger combo can now approach a price point many once considered too expensive for fast food. A family dinner can push close to $50. That's when the comparisons start. The Costco rotisserie chicken, the gas money, the bills that keep climbing. What made things worse was a public debate around digital menu boards and demand-based pricing. For the company, it was technology and optimization. For customers, it felt like every system was being designed to extract $1 or $2 extra from the same meal they'd been buying for years. People stopped coming, not loudly, just consistently. Smaller orders, one fewer visit per week, families eating at home on Tuesday nights instead of hitting the drive-thru. Wendy's was once one of the clearest symbols of fast food value in America. When a brand built on that idea starts struggling to convince customers it's still worth the money, it raises a bigger question the whole industry is quietly asking. Is the problem Wendy's? Or is a reasonably priced fast food meal simply becoming harder to find? Number 5 is a brand that people genuinely want to save, even as it sinks. Red Lobster is different from most chains on this list. When most restaurant brands start struggling, customers say they stopped going a long time ago. Red Lobster conversations go differently. People talk about family dinners, graduations, anniversaries. Those baskets of hot Cheddar Bay biscuits arriving at the table just minutes after sitting down. For millions of families, Red Lobster didn't just sell seafood. It sold the feeling that an ordinary family could still enjoy a special night out without spending the entire week's budget. That emotional connection runs deep. And that's exactly what makes Red Lobster's collapse so confusing. From the outside, customers never really hated the brand. So what happened? For months, the easy answer was the endless shrimp promotion. Customers loved it too much. The company lost money. End of story. But the closer you look, the less convincing that explanation becomes. A brand doesn't collapse simply because customers liked a promotion. The real problem started much earlier and far from the dining room. One of the biggest turning points came when much of the real estate underneath Red Lobster's restaurants was sold off. It brought in significant cash on paper. But afterward, the company had to lease back many of those same locations. As rent costs climbed year after year, the pressure spread through the entire system into menu changes, disappearing dishes, smaller portions, and higher bills. Nobody walks into Red Lobster and sees a lease agreement, but they feel the consequences at the table. What's remarkable is that many customers kept coming back during that period. They gave the brand chance after chance because they remembered what it used to be, but memories can't fix problems at the table. More visits ended in quiet disappointment. Dishes that helped build the brand's reputation started feeling more standardized, less special. And for a restaurant built around special occasions, that's the most dangerous thing of all. Customers may forget the price of a meal. They never forget how they felt after it. Red Lobster didn't lose its customers in a competitive battle. It wasn't replaced by a brilliant new idea. A lot of people still want it to survive. They still want to bring their children there. They still want to see that glowing Red Lobster sign. But a brand can't live on memories forever. It has to keep delivering. And when it stops, the cracks grow. Slowly at first, then all at once. Number 4 is a brand people don't hate. They just can't quite remember why they loved it. Conversations about KFC lately tend to start with some version of the same sentence. I don't know if it's just me, but KFC doesn't feel like it used to. For many families, KFC was never just fast food. It was the solution for Sunday dinner, the bucket placed in the middle of the table after the kids' ball game. No reservations, no waiting, no preparation. Just bring it home and dinner is ready. That advantage is disappearing. In many areas today, a family meal can easily run from $40 to well over $60 after tax and drinks. That's when people do the math. On one side is the KFC bucket. On the other is a $5 rotisserie chicken from Costco, a few side dishes, and enough leftovers for the next day. But higher prices aren't even what disappoints customers most. What truly bothers people is that they no longer know what they're going to get when they open the bucket. Some days everything is exactly right. Other days the pieces are smaller, the coating tastes off, the chicken arrives soft and greasy. For a brand built entirely on familiarity, on the promise that you always know what you're getting, inconsistency is a fatal problem. Meanwhile, competitors have been moving in a different direction. Chick-fil-A lines stretch around the block. Raising Cane's keeps opening new locations. Popeyes owns the spicy chicken conversation. KFC invented fried chicken as a fast food category. But when someone wants a chicken sandwich today, they think of Chick-fil-A. When they want tenders, Raising Cane's. When they want spicy, Popeyes. The bucket is still on the menu. Colonel Sanders is still on the sign. But the excitement of opening it isn't what it once was. And for a brand built around family meals, that may be the biggest loss of all. Number 3 hits differently for anyone who grew up in small-town America. Across suburbs and small towns, Pizza Hut's iconic red roofs are still standing, but many have gone dark. Some have become insurance offices. Others sit empty behind dusty windows. What makes people slow down when they drive past isn't that they miss a pizza, it's that they miss what used to happen inside. Pizza Hut used to be a destination. Friday nights when nobody wanted to cook, birthday parties filled with laughter, youth sports teams celebrating after a game. The Book It program. Kids finishing a book, earning a free personal pan pizza, convincing their parents to drive over that same evening. Back then, a slice of pizza wasn't just food, it felt like a reward. That's why Pizza Hut became part of the memories of millions of families. But what disappeared wasn't pizza. People still eat plenty of pizza. What disappeared was the experience. Over the past several years, hundreds of traditional dine-in locations have closed or been converted. The buffets ended. The crowded dining rooms emptied. And the reasons people used to walk through the door vanished with them. Today, Pizza Hut increasingly feels more like an app than a place. You order, pay, and wait. More convenient, but far colder. A large pizza, breadsticks, and drinks for the family can now easily climb past $35 to $45 after fees and tips. That's when people look at the receipt and wonder what exactly they're paying for. Many say the toppings feel less generous, the cheese thinner, every pizza looking identical no matter which location made it. Meanwhile, a frozen pizza from the grocery store costs a few dollars and takes 20 minutes. Pizza Hut's loss is unique on this list. Wendy's lost its value identity, Red Lobster lost its generosity, KFC lost consistency, Pizza Hut lost something harder to replace, the physical place where its magic actually lived. Because what brought millions of families through those doors was never just the pizza. It was the feeling of sitting together, not in a car, not through an app, but around a table in a place everyone wanted to be. And as those red roofs continue disappearing, people realize they're not just losing a restaurant. They're losing one of the last places connected to some of their best childhood memories. Number 2 is the one that truly surprises people. Because this brand didn't lose customers to competition or to prices alone. It lost them by changing the one thing it was never supposed to change. After hours on the highway, millions of people have recognized the same sight for decades. The gas gauge dropping, kids asking how much farther, everyone needing a break, and then a familiar yellow sign appearing at the next exit. For generations of families, Cracker Barrel wasn't just a restaurant stop. It was a place that felt like home. Hot biscuits, a proper breakfast, rocking chairs on the front porch, and a few quiet minutes before getting back on the road. In Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, or Georgia, you almost always knew exactly what was waiting on the other side of that door. That dependability was Cracker Barrel's entire value. It wasn't trying to be trendy. It wasn't chasing new customers. It just stayed exactly the same, year after year, exit after exit, and people loved it for that. Then the company began rolling out a brand repositioning plan worth hundreds of millions of dollars, aimed at attracting younger customers. On paper, reasonable. In practice, the problem was how they did it. Instead of adding something new while protecting what already worked, they started changing the old things. The familiar details loyal customers never even knew they loved until they started disappearing. The atmosphere shifted. The layout changed. The feeling of walking through the front door changed. Management saw modernization. Many customers felt like they were losing the place that had felt like home. That's different from every other chain on this list. Cracker Barrel customers didn't come looking for something new. They came precisely because the place didn't change. That was the whole point. When that promise broke, the loyalty broke with it. Breakfast for 2 now easily costs more than $30 in many locations. And more people are asking a simple question. If they're paying more, they at least want the familiar feeling they used to love. That's exactly what they say they can no longer find. There was no boycott, no viral outrage, just very small decisions, repeated millions of times. A family skips one road trip stop, a couple chooses a local diner. A long-haul driver grabs coffee somewhere else. Those quiet choices are invisible until they start showing up in revenue reports and store closures. Cracker Barrel isn't struggling because it lacks younger customers. It's struggling because it forgot why the customers it already had kept coming back. It wasn't just the biscuits. It was the feeling that no matter how long the journey, there would always be a familiar place waiting up ahead. And that brings us to number 1. A brand that didn't collapse because of one bad decision. It collapsed one meal at a time, one receipt at a time, one family at a time. If you drove past a Red Robin on a Friday night a decade ago, finding a parking spot during dinner hours wasn't always easy. Families packed the dining room, baskets of bottomless fries kept arriving at the table, kids laughed loudly. It was the kind of place where people stopped in and stayed longer than they planned. Red Robin was built on the feeling that you got more than what you paid for. Bottomless fries weren't just a side dish, they sent a message. You're welcome here. You're not being nickel and dimed. Stay as long as you like. That generosity defined the brand more than any menu item ever could. But over the last few years, the story customers tell has changed. Higher burger prices, smaller portions, fewer staff, longer waits. In many areas, a single burger, fries, and a drink can cost more than $20. For a family of 4, the final bill, after tax and tip, can approach or exceed $100. That's when people start asking whether the experience is still worth it. And once that question starts being asked consistently enough, behavior changes. More families buy ground beef at the grocery store and grill burgers at home on weekends. The math is just too clear to ignore. Then came tip fatigue. People have always been willing to tip for good service, but more customers feel like every cost is being pushed onto them. Menu prices up, fees up, tips up, while the experience stays the same or gets worse. That's where the value gap breaks apart. And once a customer stops feeling the generosity a brand was built on, it is very hard to win them back. Red Robin's story is the clearest reflection of everything happening across casual dining right now. Brands don't lose customers because of one catastrophic moment. They lose them gradually, quietly, in ways that never make headlines. One receipt that felt too high, one visit where the fries stopped coming, one night where the family looked at each other and decided to just go home and cook. After looking at all 7 of these chains, one thing stands out more than any individual story. The biggest shift happening right now isn't restaurant closures, it's consumer behavior. People are thinking differently about where their money goes. They're comparing prices more carefully than they have in a long time. They're cooking at home more often, and they're becoming far more selective about which experiences are genuinely worth paying for. There's no single boycott causing this, no protest movement, no viral moment, just millions of ordinary decisions made by ordinary families every single day. A family chooses to cook dinner instead of driving out. A couple skips the usual Friday visit. A traveler decides not to stop at the highway exit. Each decision seems insignificant. Together, they are reshaping an entire industry. The brands that survive will be the ones that genuinely convince customers they're still worth it. Not through promotions, but through the actual experience of sitting down and feeling like the meal delivered exactly what was promised. Customers aren't looking for perfection. They're looking for value. They're looking for consistency. The chains that understand that will find a way forward. The ones that don't will keep watching their parking lots empty out, one quiet Friday night at a time. What about you? Which one surprised you most to see struggling? And which one do you miss the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy stories that explain the quiet changes reshaping everyday American life, subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.